constant attempts to try to save the German army. Well, they're, keeping it up. I've got a bunch of armor, a bunch of units coming into attack. I'm planning on making an attack against the northwest, try to trap the west, the White Russians here. Now, the chances are anything I set up will be able to be broken through, although the Ukrainians here might be difficult to get. If this pushes to here and this pushes up to here, it'll be some work to save them as well as this, especially if the Northwest Army takes significant losses. But it's got the stronger force, so I'm not so sure how likely things are to be a problem, especially with the Baltic Army with its huge quantity of I'm sorry, the Northwest is down here, with its huge quantity of armor. But again, another attempt to slice through and pocket. It's this pocket counter-pocketing that's going on. And like I said, if you tried to spread out these forces, a whole bunch of them would get pocketed as little armies and then all be trapped like that. You'd be able to punch through small armies. Big armies or army groups are what are capable of actually, making the big advances, etc. And without them, you can't make any movements at all. So this is, I think, almost invariably what happens. I may be mistaken. This may be terrible play, but it's what I've always seen in the game, is this countering of, more big armies being thrown in to try to save the big armies that are trapped behind the lines, back and forth, back and forth. We haven't seen much back in terms of the Germans always have. The Soviet units have been pretty well protected until now. Had this piece been here, that Soviet army would be really tough to crack. But as it stands, I got a shot at it. Let's make some rolls, see what we get. I like to do this in the open just so, you can kind of see the nature of it. I think that the combat, etc. in this game is so exciting that it's worth showing every single roll. And there's so little in the game other than that can be shown. Otherwise, I'd just be, showing snapshots and stills of it all, right? I drained the Panzer Army Africa. It's down to 1 strength point. I'm probably going to pull out entirely, which of course means the Brits can then do a naval landing and take this back. But I've got to throw everything in here. So my attacks that I'm declaring, I'm attacking here, here, and how big C? C's got 5 armor. I'll attack here. I want to take another supply hex away from the Russians. Again, going for higher risk, which could be bad, but we'll see. All right. So let's open this one up. C is going in with 5 armor. I hit on a 1 to 5 on the chart. And that's a success. Taking this hex and taking a point of production out of the Russian hands. The next one, this should be very easy. A is going in with 6. That's a 1 to 6. That's automatic that I push into there. And then finally, Army B up here is hitting the Northwestern Army. This is not a great attack, especially with Zhukov there. But I'm going to do it largely from an attritional point of view to hurt the Russians some more. It may not be a terribly useful thing. But let's see. Zhukov's got himself 12 strength points there at -1. He does 5 hits against Army B. It has a chance of killing the leader. There isn't going to be a leader there. I'm going to be rolling an attack, so I need to check that. Oh, Army A has been revealed too, and that's not a leader. No Rommel, no undead Rommel coming in. Okay, now I've only got 5 strength points against Zhukov's army. on the firepower table, and I get a shitty roll, only do one hit. It's enough to check to see the Yukov dies, though. I'm not going to budge this thing. That's pretty clear. You can see the attrition didn't work very well there. That was the Northwest, yeah. Okay, so going against 9 with my 5 strength points, that's not going to happen. You can't hit 9. You need 10 armor to do that. So this army stopped. Let's see if A can make it forward. A's got 6 armor going against a 1 hex. I need a 1 through 5 to get in there. And I succeed as I push in further. Put some more territory here. I got to go another hex. That would normally be 1 to 4, but I want to destroy that hex, so I've got 9 firepower going in there. That's automatic. And then, what do I have? 6 armor against a 0 is 1 to 8. I've gone 2 hexes. So I capture this hex. Push into here. Now I want to go into a friendly hex with my 6 armor. That's 1 to 9. I've gone 3 hexes. So I'm back here. This is going to be a supply source for me. I'm going to pay the points for it. Just to make sure that I don't get cut off again, you know. I may also be buying this one. I may be spending a lot on my supplies. Force the Russians to actually dig me out of those spaces. Now Army C gets its advances. It's only got 5 armor. I'm going against a 1. I need a 1 through 4 to connect this up. And that's a success. We'll put that there. And then here I'm going to attack with Army C. It's 8 strength points. That's a guaranteed hit. And then I've got 5 armor against a 0 is 1 through 7, but I've moved 2 hexes, so it's only 1 through 5. There's a chance I still fail, but no. And I make it in here too. I don't have a very good chance of proceeding forward, so I'm just going to hold this. And I've got a fairly powerful line. This one definitely is going to get upgraded. And, you know, that will mean all these armies are then free. At least 3 armies here, or army groups, are going to be free for the Germans to use. That starts putting the Russians in a somewhat trickier position. But they get to react first. All right, so my builds, I get 35 points of builds. Oh, how many hexes did I gain this turn? 1, 2, only 4. Jeez. I need to get 6 to get a morale point. But nobody's too interested in drowning German morale at this point. Well, the Russians would love to, but they don't really have that opportunity. The Germans are getting kind of serious here at this point. Added some paratroopers. Remember, they count as like 3 armor if you drop them, so it's a cheaper factor than buying mechs at this point. And I don't want to reduce the price of the mechs, because at least until the Russians are ready to, or manage to, just because it makes it easier for the Russians to build mechs, and I can't afford to keep trading with them. I'm also cranking up my U-boat production. The 2 made from last turn got pushed in. I built 3 more this turn. No tech being purchased or rolled for. I might want to be considering air defense here. Get it a little cheaper, I think, because of the Brits having a cheaper value. So I get a slight advantage on that. But basically, I'm not counting on the Brits trying to bomb my industry out right now. They want to see me continuing this fight with the Soviets as they build up. So the things I have to worry about, U-boats is probably the best thing, because once the U.S. comes in, lots of the troops have to be built in the U.S. The first ground units, the first 4, I think it is, have to be built there, which means they're going to be continuously shipping through there. Well, I want to hunt them. That puts me over to the Soviets. Linchpins for the German defense are the 2 supply centers they built. So what I've done is I've set up big attack-capable armies. Not the White Russian. Oh yeah, the White Russian, yeah. Yeah, the first Ukrainian here is out of play, essentially. It's got 9 strength points. I'll flip that back in now that it's in here. And then mobile armies with the Kiev and Moscow armies with a lot of armor, air power, and enough infantry to fill things out with the intention of actually taking those hexes. So I'm going to declare my assaults boom, 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 and boom. And that should be able to slice up the German position. What's really nice about it is, other than this hex, there won't be any deformities if the Russians set this up. They'll have a solid line pretty much running through, except for right here. And if they rebuild this supply center, well, then they won't be easily cut off. And that becomes vital. All right, let's see what we can do here. First, we have the White Russian Army hitting Army A. Now, A's only got 9 strength points. It could hit the Moscow Army, but if it doesn't hit the White Russian Army first, the White Russian Army is going to hit it with 10 strength points. That will reduce my total firepower. So this is always an issue. Do you fire at the first thing that shoots at you? In this case, I really don't want to get dislodged. So I'm going to let the White Russian Army shoot me at even and see how that works. I'm just going to ignore it. And it gets a big hit, does 4 to Army A, which, you know, drops a significant amount of my firepower. I'm getting kind of a mess over there. Now, it obviously can't advance. The Moscow Army can, however. It's got 8 armor going against a 1. It does that automatically. And we've just cut off the Northern Army again. Get these out of there. They just confuse me when they're stacked. And that's in position to keep going. Obviously, this one can't do anything. I don't know. Oh, I lied. I don't have a solid line. That was an empty army. And it's not like Leningrad's very full either. Okay. Now the second Ukrainian's going to hit C. And again, do I want to take this hit? Well, to me, it's vital that I hold this space even more so than this one. So I'll allow the second Ukrainian to hit me with its 10-point blow. It doesn't get as good a roll. It does 3 hits, though, to Army Group C, which wipes out the infantry. And now the Kievans have 7, which they go in on 1 through 7. Notably, these hexes are still Russian. That would be important, perhaps. There were only 5 of them, which wouldn't help German morale, and Russians don't have morale. They would lose a point if they did. Okay, now I get to do the follow-up attacks. Let's take Moscow against A. A gets its shot here. It's on the 5 table. It does a big 2 to the Moscow Army. That's not going to do a damn thing. Moscow Army comes back with 10 strength points because of the air power. Only does 2 to Army A, which drops me down to 3 strength points. That may not be a guaranteed attack success. So I've got 8 armor against 3 strength points is 1 to 4. Zhukov cancels out the distance, the change, because I moved a hex already. But I push in. That's going to push this step out. The Germans are going to lose their production that they built there. That production was necessary. If you don't have that kind of production to anchor your line, then you could be cut off instead of attack directly, but the Russians have to attack directly. Luckily for them, they have tons of forces. Now, I could keep going with Moscow. If I could keep going to here, I've cut off a not terribly big but valuable little armored army. What are my chances? I have 8. I'd be facing ones. That's 1 to 8. 1 to 7, 1 to 6. 1 to 5, 1 to 4, 1 to 3, 1 to 2. I don't think my chances of pushing forward are very good, so I'm going to hold my anchor here because I've got a whole line connected to that, and I'm going to rebuild my supplies there. Likewise, Kiev is going to start hitting this, and we'll see. Maybe they'll be able to swing around and do something more exciting. C gets to shoot at Kiev because they didn't fire their shot. They get 2 hits. That again doesn't really matter. I might as well have shot the first one if all I'm going to hit is infantry. That isn't going to make a difference. And now it's a 10 strength point shot on C. 2 hits. That 2 is going to be down to 3 armor. You know what? I didn't take the hits from the air power against this when it retreated. It's down to 1 armor, actually. It's really... I probably should pursue it then, if it's only 1 strength point. Let's see, I've got 8 armor against a 1 is 1 to 8, 1 to 7, 1 to 6, 1 to 7. I'm going to wipe Army A out. We're just jumping back again. I made corrections. And now I'll go back to my safe spot here. I can't cut this army off because it's supplied by sea. As long as the German Navy is there, there's nothing I can really do about that. All right, let's try the same kind of action against this one. The Kievan army is going to try to go forward. It's got 7 against 3. That's a 1 to 4 only. I've moved one hex forward, so I'm at 1 to 3 going against that. I don't know. Maybe I did. You know what? I think I did take the hits there. I think I screwed up. So I'm going to keep that in place like it is because I'm not convinced and I don't want to go back and review, but I'm pretty sure. Because I only had like a 1 to 2 to get in or something. I don't know. Okay, 1 to 3. Thought I had a 1 to 4. No, I think I destroyed it. I think I had a 1 to 4. So this is actually gone. Yeah, I know. I'm not making a lot of sense right now. I'm trying to correct what I did. So we slide up there. We're not going in. So we're stopped. And that means these German armies are still supplied from here. Even though I don't have a connection to Germany itself, I'm in supply. And that has unleashed a large force that's going to be available to cause some serious problems, since these 2 armies are not necessarily going to be in supply if I close things off here. So situation's gotten kind of more risky for the Russians. The German North Army is cut off though, but most of the rest of the power that the Germans have has been released, although I destroyed an army up here. All right, now it's time to buy points. I gotta rebuild this. I definitely have to defend Moscow because that's gonna fall if I don't. And things are looking a little up in the air again. Tons of Soviet infantry. I built up the city. I also should have built something here. I may reposition some of this infantry to defend this space here. I also built 16 points of infantry and threw some points into mechs. I'm going to reposition some infantry to defend this space though. I think this is just as important as some of these other spaces that I've got under control. I'm really worried about the Germans cutting around here and down here and just pocketing these guys, which should be pretty easy. This force is going to be tough to pocket. On the negative side, though, Moscow could fall if I weaken it too much, or Leningrad could fall if I weaken it too much. So I got to be kind of careful not to put too much in there. But yeah. Okay, now the Brits have transferred a huge army over into Gibraltar with the intention of invading Norway from there. Why? Because this is where I want my fleet stationed so that I can comply with my strange little rules in the Mediterranean. Don't worry too much about it. They could be launching from Britain just as easily. Now, I also get to haul for the first time troops out of the U.S. Where do I want them to go? Hey, I want them to go to Gibraltar too. I can't bring everything, but I can bring an amphibious and an air, and we'll bring one armor. That's my 3 shipping. Now, the U-boat gets a shot at them. There's 4 U-boats there. I get 2 hits, which, given the prices of different things, I'm definitely going to take the TAC Air as 1. And now the question is the armor or the amphibious. Amphibious is more expensive than armor, so I'll take an armor 2. That didn't work very well. And I have 9 strength points there, so that's okay. I wouldn't have had to shift everything from Britain if they didn't make it. Anyway, I'm not sure. Do I have to deploy to Britain first? Let me check that. I may have to, in which case that amphibious, I may just, I can't give up the med here, can I? Yeah, I can trace supply through the Red Sea, so I'm okay. If it has to be from Britain. I'll check the rules on that. Look like that's the case, but I was mistaken. It's not 4 strength points that have to go to the U.S. It's 6. The first 6. That's going to be painful. Okay. So now we've got this second army, which is going to sail out here. Now the Germans could launch their fleet and attack the British fleet all the way along this path. But the German fleet is only 2 ships, so it can't really contest this invasion. I'm going to launch an invasion of Norway. Now, like I said before, the Norwegians don't want to defend the coastline because they'd have to deal with the gunfire from the ships. So they'll be back here. I can't sail into here. You can't cross a sea zone in an invasion. So here, I'm allowed an invasion. It's conducted like an ordinary attack. The strength for the invasion is composed of all the amphibious points plus a number of infantry, an equal number of infantry and mechanized. So it's important that I had these 2 because now I have a 4-point invasion force. I'm going to use my Navy to bombard this, and I get the Air Force 2 in this, so I get like an 11-point firepower. That's enough to clear the hex. So what did I say? I have a 4-point... I don't have any leaders. I guess I don't start with any because I haven't had enough British forces. I start with a 4-point against a 0. That's an automatic success. The boat goes back. But now I get to keep going. Now the problem with this is these guys don't really count for anything now that they're not. Now I could convert them to infantry, but that's a big loss. I have a pretty potent force here with 11 strength points. I'm going to shoot these guys. This isn't a capital, so I can put all 3 in it. They get to shoot first, though. They miss. Now my 11... I get 3 hits, so I'm going to be entering a 0. And a 0 means I've got only 3 armor here against a 0. Means I can only enter it on a 1 through 5, make it a 1 through 4 because I've advanced a hex already. And I don't make it. That means Norway is going to join the Axis temporarily. There's not a lot I can do. I can't build troops there or anything. I can only build troops in this blue stuff. Actually, I'm not even sure I could build the troops in Finland that I did. I may only be able to build in Italy, not the minor allies. I'm not sure. It's no big deal. The Russians took Finland pretty easily. So that is going to actually give 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 the Germans control of Norway at the end of the combat phase. I believe they get it then. And that's going to give them a point of morale. They're going to perhaps lose that, but it's kind of hard to do because Norway has to be taken piece by piece. It doesn't have a capital. Sweden, for example, if the Allies take, and they're planning on going there too, they're going to be able to, they conquer it all at once. Britain doesn't get any morale off this, and now it's production time for the Allies. Okay, built up a bunch of forces, a bunch of infantry in the U.S. to help, and TAC Air to fill up that 6, so I could build some armor in Britain. It's more expensive and harder to transport. There are additional transatlantic shipping. I didn't buy any ASWs or amphibs or anything. I'm working on the technology for these things. Need to worry about it, but I'm also upgrading my bomber, my all kinds of technology here. As things stand, amphibious, I think I'm going to roll for. I don't think I need a whole lot of them for the campaign I'm planning, which is going to be to drive through entry points in Europe, actually. So let's take a shot at that. And we get the bonus, which drops amphibious from 4 down to 3, if I'm not mistaken. And no matter what, it's going to be kind of expensive, but it seems good to get that up. The other things I'm going to hold on, none of them do I have any advantage in taking the roll at this point against them. You notice that big production and the morale shift for the U.S. entry. And now we go into the summer of 42. And remember, the winter of 42 is not as bad as the winter of 41 is. It's only going to be a +2 for the Germans. But, you know, we got to start succeeding against Russia. And this kind of chaos, this is what the game generates. I'm pretty sure it is the best way to play it, but it's just crazy what happens. It's unbelievably crazy, you know. We're pocketed here, but we have supplies, you know. And just weird shit going on all the time. In a game that encourages high risks and high gambles, in my opinion at least, and I really don't see how you could possibly do this by, say, covering the entire field. Because the Germans can punch holes through the Russian army, or vice versa, if they're spread out. I'm left with the thought that, you know, St. Petersburg and Moscow are not that heavily defended. And Stalingrad definitely isn't. It's just got distance on it. I may have the shot to take Russia out at this point. This advance is kind of a sign of that. Now, you know, for all I make fun of this, you could kind of try to pass it off as, there's some sort of abstraction going on. But you know what? The cuts deep in, etc., they're just too deep to explain away that way. This is a game that might represent, you know, you might be able to use this system, I'll tone down from what it is, in some sort of operational type situation. But man, armies got pocketed, but not all through the war continuously, and they weren't continuously being saved in huge quantities. Not just armies, army groups just cut off. You didn't have territory under total Russian control, rails, etc. going through here, with the Germans completely supplied and operating in a little island in the middle of the Soviet Union. These things don't make sense. Anyway, let me flip over my North Army, because that is actually the problem, is I'm missing this big pile. I was kind of counting that in. But I have a lot of armor and maybe enough firepower that if I can work it out, I'm going to see if I can smack and make a good run for all three capitals. It's not an optimal situation for the Germans, actually, for the simple fact that they won't gain a lot of Russia if they take this. And they may have, if they don't have a line going out, they may have to trace supply, they may have to trace their way out through St. Petersburg, actually. One unit at a time. So here we're going to go with the coup de grace, as it were. This army attacking here. Our army south. Now here's the question. South has Manstein. I think I'm going to go into this hex and try to push the center down this way. So, yeah, but the problem with that is I've got to make my assault. Like 2 assaults against Moscow would do me a lot of good, but I just don't have the force to brush both through there. Now, what about this Caucasus army? Could I blast through that? That's pretty weak. So yeah, I'm gonna push here. Maybe I'll just cut down whatever. We'll see. I certainly don't want to hit the second Ukrainian army. It's huge. And the Russians don't have supply there. So yeah, the south's going to go here. The center's going to go here. The north can't play. B is going in here. Now, I may be trying to get into this hex before I launch my attack or something along those lines. I don't know, because that reduces my chances of making what I really need to do. Again, it may depend on the order other things take. So, let's see what we get. I pulled everything out of the African area. I've got all my forces in place. I can't use this to support navally here because I'm not doing an invasion. It's just the nature of things. I wonder if I gave Germany the point for this. I don't know. It's almost impossible to count all the production hexes at this point in the game. So we'll just pretend I have. All right. Well, let's open up. We'll start with the A army going into this hex. That army does not have much. It only has 1 point of armor. So I'm going to want to make my attack with firepower at 7. And that's automatic that goes in. So now with my 1 armor going into a 0 hex, I only make it on a 1 to 4 still. Alright, so I've taken the hex. I don't want to hit the Kiev hex, most definitely, but I may want to drop back to here. Who knows? Alright, now C's not going anywhere, I don't think. It has no armor, and it's sitting on one of these defending it, which might be A might advance into that friendly hex with the hopes of kind of locking me in there. Okay. The next attack I want to make is I'll make the center army against Moscow. I'm doing my assault, obviously. Moscow, well, that's not Zhukov there. I put all the counters because that may give the Russians additional information as to if they lose Zhukov, they'll have additional counters in play. So Moscow's only got a 7 firepower here. And it rolls crappy and only does 1 point of damage to the center army, which means almost nothing unless I kill an unlikely Rommel, which I don't. Now the center army gets to fire back, and that's 11 points against Moscow. So I do 3, just 3. It still reduces Moscow quite a bit, down to a 4. And now I get to try my advance. The center army's got 8 armor against a 4. I need a 1 through 4 to get in there. Ah. All right, so I know I'm not going to win because that army didn't advance, so it's not going to get to move anywhere. I also know that I'm not going to hook this up unless I use this army. So I'll use Army B here. And it's going to try to advance into that hex. I've only got 5 armor. I've got paratroopers, but I don't want to use them right now. 5 armor gets me a 1 through 5. I'm going to go for that. I can't afford to shoot my assault here. I make it into here. Now the problem is, if I want to save the North Army, I have to go here. That's a 1 through 4. I can use my armor. The Baltic army is rather tough. I'm not going to be able to knock these guys out of existence. They're going to be in supply and operating. Connecting up the North Army seems vital. I've got a 5. That's only doubled, so it's a 7 against 1. I need a 1 through 7, 1 through 6, I get in. Gives me this hex. I'm going to go back to my friendly hex, I believe. It's going to reduce my chances of taking Leningrad. Of course, alternatively, I could swing into Moscow, which I might actually be more likely to get. Yeah, let's go for that. All right, I'm going to go to the North Hex. That's a friendly hex, and I have, who is this? B, 5 armor, going into a friendly is 1 through 8. 1 through 7, 1 through 6, I make it in for free. We're going to see something even weirder start to happen here. Now I hit Moscow. Moscow's already fired. This is the B army. I've got 9. I already used the paratroopers for this, but 9, 10, 13 firepower on Moscow. I do 2. I do 2 more hits on Moscow. So it's not a clear hex. This is really unlikely that I'm going to take it. If I had wiped it out, I probably would have. So Army B has 5 armor against 2 is 1 through 4. 1 through 3, 1, 2, 2. I need a 1 to hit. Oh, all right. Army B has 3 air power, so the Army of Moscow is gone. Well, Army GRU of Moscow is gone. 3 production are gone. We're in there. And safe, actually, because we made it there. Crazy game. Well, we don't see any reason to keep going. We got something interesting here. We've got them pocketed, but they have supply, and I've got no easy way of dealing with that, except maybe this army. This army can do some interesting things. It might also instead pocket these armies. Let's see what we can do with it. I'm stopping with B. South. South has 8 tanks. That's it. This is not what it was intended for. How big is the Baltic? The Baltic army's too big. 8 tanks going into a 1 hex. It's 1 to 8, make it 1 to 9. We march in. Now, if we can take the Caucasus and 2 more hexes, these guys are in trouble. Not permanently, they'll get freed again. but we are chipping away at the Soviet position. Okay, so I'm going to hit that, I think. The Caucasus Army only has 5 strength points. It gets to shoot first. With a 4, it only does 1 hit. That might hit Manstein, though. This was probably a really dumb attack. I got lucky there. Okay. Now it gets to shoot back with a 7 at -1. It does 3 hits to the Caucasus Army. And now it's advancing with a 7 against 2 is 1 to 6. 1 for moving, and 1 for coming back the other way for Manstein. I have to withdraw now. I'll withdraw there. Right? Because that has just reduced, and there goes another point. That's the supply that these guys need right now. That's just reduced the Russian production another point. Okay, well, I gotta hit it again, right? No firepower here. 7 against the Caucasus 2. This isn't very likely. Well, 1 to 6, 1 to 5, 1 to 4, make it 1 to 5. We push them out of there, and they're in some trouble. And we do. I want to withdraw this way. There goes another production point. Tempting, eh? I'm not too far from cutting this, or maybe this, but it's really unlikely. What I need to do is this hex right here. So that's a 7 against 1 is 1 to 7, 1 to 6, 1 to 5, 1 to 4. Make it 1 to 5 because of Manstein. And we make it into here. And now the question is, where do we want to park? Anywhere in here? We're still open. That's the problem. Do we want a nearly solid line? It really doesn't matter too much where we put it. We've got some defense here, but nothing's going to get cut off terribly there. I don't know. We could... I don't think we have a chance at chasing this, and I don't think we have a desire to. I think what we want to do is pull back to the safest place. So we'll go to friendly terrain here, which is 1 through 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Manstein makes it 6. And we're in there. And that looks good to me. And that's the extent of what my army can do. These guys are pocketed. These guys are not. All that means with these guys is, well, I gotta save them like I've been saving things left and right in this game. Okay, and I built up my additional forces. I've got some, you can see the U-boats are beginning to get to be a decent number. They haven't caused much damage. I forgot to roll for them, but then did it afterwards. I've got some technology I want to roll for. Still not the mechs. I don't want to open that up to the Russians. I have more production than they do. But the TAC Air I'm going to roll. And I get that. That's going to put me, I believe, down to 1 for TAC Air. Which is what I want. It's what everybody else has, right? I've been kind of behind the curve on that one. Air defense I'm not worried about yet. The Allies haven't built their bombers. Their bomber price is high. I don't feel like they're going to use that heavily. U-boats I have to keep working up. So I'm pretty much good on the tech rolls. I have to make leader draws still. But that's it for the Germans. And of course now the Soviets have this little pocket here that, you know, huge amount of territory. Hey, how many hexes did I get? I might have gotten tech. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this should be worth more than 1, eh? 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got. I'm pretty sure I get a point of morale off this. Not that morale seems to matter yet, but Once Germany starts losing chunks of hexes, it can be surprisingly effective to drive them down. I think I've been cheating though. I think with the Italian army, I can't shift the troops out of it and not have the Italian army penalty somewhere, which is basically just a penalty to advance. Oh well, basically what I was thinking was, I can avoid even having to build it here. I'll just build it up here and defend it. And then I decided, I've got enough points that I'm building in troops this time. You can see I got the OKW, quite a few troops, and the Italian army, quite a few troops. Actually, an extra one over what I needed. I may try to play more correctly for the rest of the game, for what it matters, where I can't just shift those forces into German armies and throw them in. They have to be part of the Italian army if I'm going to use them. What that basically means is I'm wasting an armor, because I'll probably be using the infantry to hold a hex or something. Alright, one thing that's particularly annoying or difficult to deal with here, I got these two armies, Kiev and 2nd Ukraine. I'm not going to be able to use them. They're out of supply. That's fine. And that's easy to cope with. I just flip them over. I can't move the leader out. Nothing. But these guys, and I had this situation with the Germans too, are in their own little world. They can shift forces between them, and these guys are in their own world. They can shift forces between them. And obviously, I have to try to save these guys, but then there's also the question of, can I do something to the Germans? We now have only a -2 on Moscow, so the Germans are rooted there. They're rooted here and down here. The reason for this is because there was some possibility of an attack through here hitting here, which would have potentially cut off the entire German pocket over here and just create more chaos. So, but this is all just so silly, but fun. When I look at it, the Russians are in trouble. We're down to this army. That 8 tanks and a couple of airplanes. That's the only good stuff I have. Everything else is infantry. I'm going to have a tough time. I could break out right now. Maybe I can do something cool. Maybe I can save these units. But is the Soviet Union going to be able to last long term? If not, it may just be the time for the Allies to start pumping some Lend-Lease points through. Because of all the pocketing, I'm just, pointing out things as I think of them at this point. Not really playing too much, just thinking about the game. Because of all the pocketing that happens in this game, you don't get the big withdrawals that you got historically and that you see in games like, Third Reich or WEF. Again, maybe it's capturing some weird feel of armored conflict at some very small scale, but it absolutely fails to capture the strategic elements of this campaign. So unfortunately I'm boned into a cell phone because I'm expecting interviews today, but I sent out a whole bunch of applications. Anyway, this is the best I can think of doing. I'm going to try to launch an attack into here with the Russians. Leningrad can also launch an attack. I don't know, this Caucasus army isn't doing me a whole hell of a lot of good there. I'm going to pull it back and fill this in because I'm not far from losing everything. And then the Baltic army is going to push this way to try to free these guys. I may actually push another hex or 2 back. If I can get here, I can build this up. That's my big army now. What do I have? I have white. I have the 1st Ukraine. I'm going to take a couple of strength points out of that and put them in the Baltic army. And, just try to rescue what I can out of here with these guys and see if I can put myself in a position where the Germans aren't going to be trivially able to take Stalingrad and Leningrad. They have Moscow already. I can't really do anything about it. I looked at, could I cut down through here? There's just too many troops here. I could probably take Moscow back, and that would do me a lot of good. Maybe. But I couldn't build any troops there if I take it, because it would be devastated again. And that means it would be pretty easy, or comparatively easy to take back. So let's see if we can save Mother Russia here. I turned that off. Okay. So Leningrad and White Russia. I'm gonna have White Russia actually attack this hex and Leningrad attack this one. Alright, let's open up with the White Russian hitting this hex. That's 10 strength points. I might have, no, I don't have a leader there. It's an automatic hit, and then I get my potential advance there, which is a 1 through 4. So I make it into there. It's hard to tell if this is really valuable. And then Leningrad has only 6 strength points and a leader to burn, which is a guaranteed hit as well. And I'm not going to advance. I'm going to flip this over to indicate there's no strength there now, that I softened it up, because I got to do the other attacks. The Baltic, that's the only other unit that can attack here. And that is 8 armor. I'd like to hit an army with this, actually. But I don't think I'm going to get a shot at it the way I'm heading. How's the center army? Yeah, I don't want to hit that. I could hit this, but... yeah, why don't we position ourselves like this instead? So I'm going to hit Army C here. I'll take away that, you know, those points that the Germans spent to build that fortification there. So Army C is going to get to fire at me. And they do a hit, which might hit Zhukov. It does not. But the cool part now is I get to hit them, and I have 11 strength points at a -1. I only do 2 there. And nothing there. So I only did 2 to Army C. Hopefully I got enough to drive it away, because if I don't, I stop. Now I have 8 armor against 3 strength points is 1 to 5. Zhukov brings that up to 1 to 6. So I hit it. My air wipes out 2 more strength points. In German Army C, that might mean something if I turn it up, has to withdraw now. Where do we withdraw? Well, A is a safe place to go. This is devastated. And some of those 3 points are wasted there, but it provides a defensive bonus too. Okay. That's all I can do for initial attacks, but now I can do follow-up attacks. And White Russia, well, it's going into a friendly hex 1 to 3. I want to pull back to that Leningrad hex that's empty, and I succeed. Do I want to keep going into Leningrad? Hey, why not? That should be a 1 to 2 into a friendly hex. Not good enough, but that's okay. It's providing some additional strength, even if it's not. You know, if I can get things overstacked, that's kind of potent, as we've seen. Now we go back to the Baltic Army, and I think I want to take some of these hexes. So I've got 8 going against 1 is 1 to 8. I've got used 1 up, but I have Zhukov here. So that's 1 to 7, 1 to 6, 1 to 5 into this hex. That could give me another anchor. And that is a success. Now, do I want to go in here at 1 to 4? And then it would be 1 to 4 to get back up here. I could actually launch all the way down to the Black Sea. And remember, I can trace supply through the Black Sea. So It's actually kind of potent if I could get all the way down. I could also get down here. But I kind of like this anchor here, so I'm going to stick there. I'm going to be building the replacement for that. I've still got this city here. And now, again, we have a little island of German troops stuck somewhere in the Soviet Union. Fully in supply and likely to be a pain in the ass. Pretty much the biggest thing we can, 10 infantry and 2 air power. Remember, that stuff's cheap for me in each of the key hexes that I want to control. I can't move Zhukov. I do probably get some more blank leaders that don't count. But I moved my mech price up. I'm going to take a shot at it. I need a 1 through 3 to reduce the price. I didn't get it. I don't know how much it matters. Mark goes all the way back to the beginning. And that is going to put it over to the Allies, who have a little bit of an effect from the U-boats, and that doesn't affect morale. It affects morale in a lot of other games, but it doesn't affect it here. I think I mentioned that already. But they may also want to be starting to spend some money to try to keep the Soviets in the game. It's going to be tough. Okay, so for the Allies, put a bunch of armor here in Norway. I may go charging into Sweden. I'm not sure yet. There's advantages to doing that on different sides of things. But I also gathered up a couple strength point of infantry and a couple strength point of amphibious. I'm going to make a landing here in Cairo and take that back. The danger, of course, with that is, well, maybe the Italian fleet will sail out. But the Italian fleet's pretty weak. It's only 3 ships. And I've got this humongous fleet. So yeah, they'll be wiped out if they do. And that, because I'm giving, well, see this, I'd still get the, yeah, it doesn't do me much good in either direction, because the point is, I can't attack the fleet, but the air support situation, well, hex by hex. So once I hit this hex in here, they're going to have their air power to support the fleet, but only if the fleet's involved. So we may see an interception starting here, but I think it's worthwhile in this case. And this is me making up rolls as I go, right? I still haven't figured out if what I'm gonna send for the U.S. I've got 6 production that I can ship over. TAC Air is real cheap, but I may send some infantry instead of TAC Air in with that shipping, just because there's so many U-boats out there, they're going to get some hits. Gathered a pretty decent sized force came through. I only lost 1 infantry there. Okay, so let's start our attacks. First thing, we're going to set sail, and once we hit this hex, that's where the Italian Navy is going to intercept us. And they get to shoot once per hex, but they'll probably be gone before that happens. They get first shot with 3 ships, and they got to deal with my Navy first. We get 1 hit. We'll take that on a capital ship because they're cheaper by a little bit. But now I get, oh geez, no, that was like, that shouldn't have been a 3. Ah, geez. Ships are, where's naval combat? It's back here, not where the new boats are, but somewhere else. All right, naval fire. The firepower total of each naval fire is 6. Yeah, that ain't it. God. But here we have national fleets yet? No. There we go. Okay, so that is at 3. So, except that maybe it's not, because it's now in this set of rolls. 8 side doubles its ship strength, so I had a 6. So I do 2. These are actually simultaneous, which is different from everything else in the game too. But the aircraft carriers, I think, are tripled or something. Their own attack at triple strength, yeah. So I'll be at 16 and 9 is 25. I'm going to wipe out the Italian fleet. There's no question of that. 2, 5. There goes the Italian Navy. That didn't serve much purpose. And now I really have no capability to influence the Mediterranean by the way I look at things. So we continue on. And we do our quick landing here. And that's going to, well, we want to shoot the Hex. We have a huge navy that's going to shoot the Hex. That's going to be 9 strength points, I guess, of firepower. That's a guaranteed. And then I get an advance with 2. And 2 more strength points is 4. And Mr. No Leader. So I've got 4 armor going into a 0. I make it into the Hex. It's going to devastate some German production. And now, with the supply gone, and with my ruling on the navies, the Italians aren't going to be able to maintain supply to the Mediterranean. All of this is going to fall. But that doesn't really matter. I get to keep moving these. These guys go back to Gibraltar. Gibraltar is just awesome under these rules. But it usually isn't in most games. The only problem is the Mediterranean and the Atlantic are so big that these dual ports are humongous. My other attack, well, Norway's the important space. The capital there. So let's go into there. We have this is the 2nd Army, 7 armor. Going into a 1 space is 1 to 7. And we take Norway, which will be another German production away. So we push in. Put a little British marker there. And now I get to continue my movement. Well, this guy has got only 2 armor. Oops. Let's see if we got someone. Nope. He's only got 2 armor there. But he can move across this crossing arrow because I control it. So it's a friendly Hex, so it would go 1 to 5. But I'm down to 1 to 4 at this point. Why am I doing this? I don't know. 1 to 3. Nope. So we stop there. But we're going to capture all of North Africa at this point. Now for this, what's Sweden's strength? Sweden has 6 strength points. No more than 2 can be in the capital. And that kind of creates a problem. I could put a big pile wherever I get attacked, which would probably help. So yeah, if I'm going to attack into Sweden, put 6 here, the Germans can always move them. And the Swedes get to shoot. I do 2 hits on, that's the 2nd Army up there. But now it gets 12 on me. That's 3 hits on the Swedes. Now, because I attacked this Hex, I got to keep going against it. So I am a 7 against 3, would be a 1 to 4. I've already moved 1 Hex, so I'm 1 to 3. I do not get to advance. And now Sweden adds its production to the Germans, which is kind of cool. I mean, so I'm giving the Germans production temporarily that they can use. Why is this army moving up this way? Well, it doesn't really matter, but I'm planning on taking Turkey. And from there, if the Germans win in the Soviet Union, I can push into any territory they conquer that I'm adjacent to. But also, I've got a foothold going into the Balkans there. Time for some production. I'll be back after that. And I sent my supplies off for the Lend-Lease, Murmansk, and the Caspian Sea. 4 points there. It's probably too late. You know, the Germans get another move. They get another shot at Leningrad and the Caucasus, and they're awfully close to both of them. From here, 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 they've just got so many opportunities for an attack and only 2 axes that they really have to take. So that looks unlikely, to say the least, that 4 points is going to do me any good. But I've also got, I built up some forces over here. Still no ASWs, they're so expensive. But I'm going to make a roll on the bomber table. 3, that's a success. Bombers go from 7 all the way down to 4. Yeah, some of these higher tech things, more complicated technologies, really get cheap quickly. Not well, capital ships even get fairly cheap. How about aircraft carriers? Yeah. So you do have a opportunity to try to pursue the Z plan. Good luck with it, though. Yeah, you can't do it in this game. I mean, you really can't. The Soviet Union's just you get 1 year. You get 1 year to play with, and usually you can't do as well in the early stages of the game as historically was done in the war. Let's try another one. How about the A-bomb? Hey, that's a success too. I was at P2 here. I go up to P3. Still can't build one, but you know, I'm beginning to look at, I'm going to need atomics to take Germany out if they win against the Soviets. Okay, I got my mechs. Mechs are really good to roll. Oh, a C is not good. I only go back 1 space though. That's kind of cool. I don't get to roll again. My ASW, I'd really like to get some of that cranking. Jeez. Do I want to take a roll where I only have a 1/3 chance at ASW? It takes me 2 turns to build it up. I'm going to hold off. I should be buying some so I can start shooting these suckers down because they're starting to get painful to me. But that's it. We push into the winter, and Siberian production is going to go up. I increased production for a couple of hexes that the Allies built back, and I also had forgotten to add the point for the US, so I did that as well. But at this point, we're going to get 4 more points for the Ruskies, which will put them up to 23 for the next turn. And then they got 4 more in reserve. So they've got a lot of points coming to them if they survive. All right, let's